What's up, big man? How's it going, Oso? Oh yeah, we're in West Texas, so we're gonna go shine some cuts and see if we can find some snakes. It rained a little bit today, and it feels fantastic out here. We're gonna be here for around a month, so we've got a lot of herping ahead of us, but today's gonna be the first night. We're gonna get to it, and we'll see what we can find. All right, guys, well, it is drizzling out here, and we are out here shining a cut, hoping to see some snakes out. It's a little bit cooler than is ideal, and it's actively drizzling, which normally we don't really want in West Texas, but the moisture is a good thing because it is very dry out here normally. So there's definitely a chance we could see something cool tonight, but we're mostly just out here getting started, hoping to break the ice. So if we see anything, I'll be happy. So we're gonna get to it. All right, guys, here's our first snake of the night. It's been a while, but there's a nice, beautiful little blacktail Steven spotted here at the top of the cut. Check that guy out. These are a really beautiful species of rattlesnake, quite common out here, but nevertheless, always exciting to see. So the wind picked up quite a bit after that first clip, so I'm going to do voiceovers when it gets a little bit too windy. But this blacktail was just hanging out at the top of the cut in ambush. They love to ambush right at the top of the cut like this, presumably because mice and other animals will run along the top of the cut. But anyways, we just left this guy sitting there at the top. We didn't want to mess with him too much. He had a good spot. So we just took a couple quick photos and left him right there and kept shining. Here's a nice double. We got a really cute little baby red-spotted toad. And then, this is what I initially saw, our first night snake of the trip. The wind has died down, so I'm not going to have to voice over this segment. It's probably going to be a pretty common trend this trip, voiceovers and then not voiceovers, just because the wind out here is so inconsistent. But look at this little red-spotted toad. He is beautiful. Oh, he's having a hard time. He's really cool looking, though. Hand for scale. This is a baby, probably metamorphed this year if I had to guess, but really nice double. After not seeing much tonight, it's definitely welcome. Two of the most common species in West Texas, but two things I'm pretty happy to see after a long night of finding not much. All right, beautiful Chihuahuan night snake. He's got a kind of pinkish hue to him. Really good looking snake. This is a young one, so they get quite a bit bigger than that, but they're small snakes in general. Sometimes you'll find ones that are surprisingly large. I'm guessing he's just gonna cruise down there into that hole right there. But we're just gonna leave him to it. See if there's anything else out. It's getting kind of late, so we might be wrapping up our first night here shortly if we don't see too much else. In he goes. Sophia found this guy just up the cut from us. Another red-spotted toad, this time a full-grown adult. Actually a little bit on the larger side from what we typically see. Typical see. But yeah, this cut has produced more than we've seen all night so far. So we might stick around a little bit. But it's definitely getting late, so we might be wrapping up here shortly. Good evening. It's the next day. We're back at it. Hopefully tonight will be a little bit more productive. It feels really good out here. It's nice and warm, and it has been wet, but it's not soaking wet right now. So should be pretty good weather. We're gonna get to it. Hey, here's a blacktail. That guy wasn't there a minute ago. I just turned on the GoPro. He must have came out sometime between like 10 minutes ago and now, because we were just over here. We'll get a closer look at him real quick. Oh, all right. This is gonna kind of suck, trying to get down here to look at this guy. There he is. First blacktail of the night, hopefully not the last. Kind of a little bit on the thin side, and not as pretty as the one we saw last night, but good quick start to the night nonetheless. We're just gonna leave him to it. All right, 10 o'clock update. We found that blacktail right at dark around 9 and haven't seen anything for the last hour or so. We've got Steven and Sophia are a little bit further down the mountain on a different cut. Someone will find something cool tonight. It's just whether or not it'll be us. We'll have to find out. So we're gonna keep at it. It feels really good out here. It's a little bit breezy, but not super windy. A cool looking little rodent. Super long tail. Almost looks like a miniature kangaroo rat, but I don't think it is. Doesn't seem to be scared of me at all either. Really interesting. And that you can hear in the background is calling canyon tree frogs. All right, guys, well, here is our next snake of the night, and it is a pretty good one. Sophia found this really cool looking mottled rock rattlesnake just down the road from us. Has a very interesting busy pattern, and it's a little bit different from what we normally see in this particular area. It's very unhappy with the fact that we're taking pictures and video of it right now, so we're not going to mess with it too much more, but really interesting looking snake nonetheless, and always good to see a rock rattlesnake out here. They're one of my favorite snakes to find while out here shining cuts, so really cool to see. But we're just going to get some quick photos of this one and let it go.
Because it looks like hamburger helper.
According to Steven, sometimes lepidus can look like hamburger helper. I guess I kind of see it.
It's the ground beef phenotype.
No, don't you turn around. I'm trying to look at you. Get a little video with the full force of the flashlight. Because these snakes can change quite a bit in different lighting situations. But nevertheless, a really cool looking snake. And hopefully the first of many rock rattlesnakes we're going to see this summer. So we're just going to leave this girl to her business and keep on shining. All right, guys, well, only a few minutes later, here's our next find. This is another little night snake like we saw last night. Really interesting color on this one. It's kind of reminiscent of the one we did see last night, but even more so, kind of orangish in coloration, which is fairly typical for the montane areas in West Texas, but this is a really good looking snake. But very common nonetheless. We're gonna see many dozens of them over the next couple weeks. So we won't spend too much time with it, but good looking snake nonetheless. Chihuahuan night snake, number 2 for the trip. 2 of many, I'm sure. The thing is so colorful. He's going under Steven's shoe. All right, we're gonna move this guy well away from the road so he doesn't get run over and keep shining. Well, that's a kind of strange find. I just flipped this little guy under a rock. This is a Great Plains or Western narrowmouth toad, obviously closely related, whoa, to the narrowmouth toads back home, and he is making a run for it. Come here, dude. All right, he's going back. But they're basically the same looking frog, but they're generally more monotone. They don't have as many colors or variations. You pretty much only see this nice kind of olive colored phase. And it actually, I'm assuming, is where they get their scientific name, Gastrophryne olivacea. But I actually flipped this little guy, so I'm just gonna put him right back under his rock, and we're gonna keep on shining. Nothing crazy going on tonight, but we're definitely seeing more than we did last night. There's a nice big guy. There's a tarantula in the hole in this tree. You see these guys pretty commonly. I've seen a bunch of them tonight, but this is the first one that's been actually in a place I could get a look at it. But very cool. All right, everyone. Well, we did not see too much more last night, but it was a pretty good night compared to the night before. We saw a lot more snakes, and overall activity was just a little bit better, but we're hoping it's going to be even better tonight. Hello, turkeys. Turkeys. But anyways, we're getting ready to head out right now. We're going to be hitting a different area than we have the last 2 nights, so we'll see how it goes. All right, we are headed out. We're going to do a little bit of driving around down in the grasslands. Hoping to see a hognose snake, but I haven't seen a Mexican hognose snake in a few years, so it would be really cool to see one this evening or at some point this summer. So that's one of the things we really want to see this trip, and it's pretty good weather for them this afternoon. So we're going to drive around a little bit down here before it gets dark, and then go shine cuts once the sun sets. Alright guys, so our first find of the afternoon was this adorable little baby Texas horn lizard. The wind was blowing quite a bit, so I'm going to do a voiceover just so it sounds good. But this little guy was just hanging out in the road. So of course we had to do our part to make sure he didn't get run over. But this was probably a baby from last year. Super cute, super adorable. We just went ahead and moved him off the road so that he wouldn't get run over by a car. But the species is pretty common while driving around in the grasslands in West Texas, so I'm assuming we'll be seeing many more of them over the course of the next few weeks. This little guy was our only find during the daylight hours, so after we moved him off the road, we started heading up to where we were going to shine for the night. That is a huge Sonora. Look at that. That is awesome.
Wow.
He is so cool. That is a beautiful little snake. Well, our first snake of the night is a mole king snake here in West Texas. Not actually. This is a Sonoran ground snake, but a really big and really cool looking one. So unfortunately, the wind picked up quite a bit after that first clip, but we did spend a little bit of time looking at this guy because this is a super cool and variable species that we don't get to see too much on the channel, and definitely don't get to see very big, pretty ones like this too often in West Texas. So this is a pretty good way to start the night with snakes, and we were all excited about it. Really handsome looking little variable ground snake. Hopefully the first of many we will be seeing over the course of the summer. All right, here's another snake. A big Great Plains rat. Look at that. This big girl is definitely gravid. She's super thick on the back end, and you can see the eggs when you hold her up. So it's a good thing we're getting her out of the road so she doesn't get run over, because she has an important job to do to keep the next generation going. But a really big, good-looking snake. These guys are basically the western equivalent of a corn snake, and at one point they were a subspecies of corn snake. But now they are a full species, the Great Plains rat snake, Pantherophis emerii. Really cool-looking snakes. But yet another quite common snake out here that we're probably going to be seeing a lot of over the course of the summer. So we're just going to make sure she gets off the road safely and keep driving to our cut. We're going to shine. All right, guys, well, here is our next snake of the night that Steven found. This absolute unit of a Tantilla is the glorious Tantilla cuculata, the largest, at least the largest in North America, species of Tantilla. And they're one of my favorite snakes out here. These things are fantastically awesome. And I'm going to try to put some scale next to him here so you guys can see. Look at that. That is a Tantilla, just like the ones we have back home, but almost nothing like the ones we have back home at the same time. And he's going under my bag. These things are about as close as you're going to get to an elapid without actually being an elapid here in the United States. They just look like they should be deadly venomous. And it's possible that they are. We don't know too much about their venom. I have been bit by one. Nothing happened. I was a little itchy, and that was about it. But they just look so menacingly awesome. One of my favorite snakes in West Texas, and one of my favorite snakes in the US. So awesome. And they're pretty variable too. You never know what you're going to get when it comes to size, and they also have this really cool variation. But this is definitely the best find of the trip so far. No questions asked. But if we don't see anything better than this, this is definitely going to be a great way to highlight this video, at least in my opinion. I will never get tired of seeing these guys. And hopefully we'll see a couple of them this summer. But they are one of the more uncommon snakes out here, so. For those unfamiliar with Tantilla, they feed largely on centipedes and other invertebrates. But these guys feed almost exclusively on the gigantic centipedes we have here in West Texas. So not only are they really cool looking and pretty rare, but they're also just completely badass. And all of those factors make for a really cool snake that I will never get tired of seeing. We are going to get some quick photos of this beauty and let him go and keep on shining. Well, that's kind of neat. Nice, big, pretty looking night snake is our next find. Let's see if we can get a better look at this guy. He's really cool. Looks a lot like the one we saw last night. It was really orange. But this one's a lot bigger too. Actually fairly large for a night snake in general. They're typically a pretty small snake. But they do get quite a bit bigger than that. It's just not very common to see them at that size. Well, it's getting pretty late. It's around midnight right now, so we probably got another 2 hours or so of decent hunting before we end up calling it a night. So we're gonna get some quick photos of this guy and leave him to his business. Well, that's kind of cool. Just double flipped Great Plains narrowmouths. There's one there. There's another one right there. Unsurprisingly, because there's a lot of moisture under this rock and also a lot of ants. And that is what those guys like to eat. Really cool to see two of them hanging out right here. Flipping rocks in West Texas is generally not very productive, so it's always a happy surprise when it is. Really cool. But I'm just going to move these guys and put their rock back. Here's our first one of these for the year. This is a really cool looking little canyon tree frog. I think these are the only native hylet in this area, right?
Yeah.
Yep, the only tree frog we get out here in West Texas, at least natively. Yeah, so there's introduced green tree frogs in Big Bend National Park, but they're not supposed to be there. This guy's really green for a canyon tree frog. They're not normally that pretty. I mean, they're pretty looking frogs, but normally they're more of a grayish coloration, but really cool. We're gonna see tons of these guys too, I'm sure, especially once it starts raining a little bit more. We're just gonna leave this little guy to it and keep shining. Probably gonna be wrapping up here pretty soon though. All right, guys, well, it's really late at night and we just pulled up to talk to Frank, and he's down there walking this way, and right beside the car is our first suboc of the year. Look at that guy. That is a beautiful suboc, nice and orange. Subadult, not fully grown, but wow, what a beautiful snake. So these guys are, for obvious reasons, one of the more sought after snakes out here. They're not rare whatsoever, and in fact, in some places, they're just straight up the most common snake. But this particular area, this is actually only the second one I've seen here. And they are pretty uncommon on this particular rock cut. And they're beautiful too. I mean, look at that, super orange, super yellowy orange. Just a beautiful snake all around. And these guys have great dispositions, great personalities. Just really awesome snakes. All right, guys, here's another look at this suboc we just found. Probably gonna be our last snake of the night, unless by some miracle we find something on the way home. But we're just sitting around taking pictures real quick before we end up wrapping up the night. Love those bug eyes. But hopefully we'll be seeing plenty of subocs over the next couple weeks, so not gonna spend too much time with this one, even though it is a pretty fantastic example. But size comparison, this is a really young one, maybe a year or two old. They get a lot bigger than that, and hopefully we'll be seeing some big ones. All right, guys, we are officially heading in for the night. It's a really great way to end the night with that nice suboc and hanging out and chatting with Frank for a bit. But we are calling it a night now. It is 4:40 a.m. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the first West Texas installment. It was pretty fun and pretty successful. The first two nights were definitely a little slow, but tonight was great. Saw lots of snakes, lots of good diversity, and it was just a fun night all around. Hopefully there will be more nights like tonight to come and less nights like the first night. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next episode.